All right. Thank you for being here. I think we're good on introductions, right? We all have sat at the table enough times, we don't have to run through that again. But good morning, and thank you for being here. Hope you all had a great weekend. So we'll get started here. I do feel as though hopefully we have what it takes to come to a tentative agreement today. We've heard your concerns throughout bargaining, talking about the morale, retention of our officers, being able to attract new ones, having competitive wages, scheduling, all those sort of things. And we feel that a lot of them have been addressed. And, working with Chief Mooney, who's probably still been here less than a month, she's looking at a lot of these things, listening a lot, and looking at ways that she can improve things. So it's, I really appreciate her help so far in coming to some of the things that we have here today. So I do have, I have like a condensed version rather than the full. So following our last session, where we did talk about the increase, the percentage increase that was requested, and we weren't really there just yet. We did talk internally about looking at ways that we can reduce some of our costs in the existing budget to come up with our increase that we're looking for, 5%. So that's retroactive back to January 1st. We also agreed, even in the last session, to increase both the non-contract hourly rate and the outside detail hourly rate to $40 per hour. With these new increases, because the new minimum and max will be upped, what we think we have here is the second highest hourly rate in Palm Beach County agencies of $29.98. So that's our minimum hourly rate, and a minimum hourly salary for the 206 at $49,407, and our max hourly rate to $51.24, or $84,442 for a 206 duty day position.
What percentage is that?
It's 5%. So in addition, and one of the things that we talked about in being able to fully staff the department, retain the officers that you have who need a higher salary, and we've talked a lot about our other agencies who have in their annual salary, and it's hard to match annual salaries when you're talking about 206 versus a 12-month position. One thing that we're looking to do here is adding 30 12-month positions to the department using vacant positions that exist in the department. We feel that that's going to do a lot to retain some of the current staff who would otherwise want to leave for a competitor who has a full year position, and the salary would be obviously higher. But it also, I think, will work to recruit officers from other agencies or something like that to our department. So another thing that you mentioned is the AB squad. We talked a lot about that in the past. And in speaking with Chief Mooney, doing this will help reduce or eliminate the need for an AB squad where, you're split, some work in July, some work in June. With the 12-month positions, you'll have the coverage that you need, and they'll know that they're working those days anyway. So for those 12-month positions, I want to make it clear that the decision to go to a 12-month position is optional. We're not forcing anyone into it. And in speaking with Chief Mooney about how she, felt she was going to go about filling those positions, and what might be factored in, seniority was definitely something she will strongly be considering or using to fill those positions.
Excuse me, what capacity would those positions be? Like first line officers or above, or is it going to be a supervisor's positions, or?
They're regular officer positions, just with a different number of duty days.
And then the extra duty days will be paid at 29.98 cents an hour?
Correct.
Okay.
Could they maintain a school also?
I'll look
Or
to you
that's just optional?
for input if you have it, if not.
So they'd be open to assignments just like the rest of the officers, school and non-school based.
And would it change anything with vacation and all that other?
So with 12-month positions, you do get annual days. So that's
It'll be an increase in
definitely
it.
different.
Now,
So more like a standard agency would.
what about overtime?
Overtime would be calculated just like overtime is normally calculated. If you work more than your 40 hours per week, you'd be eligible for overtime. Something we did talk about with Chief Mooney was that, these officers would be the ones working summer school. It was because they would be year-round.
Okay,
So
but they would be eligible to get overtime and non-contract pays, and, well,
Well,
I
there
don't
wouldn't be any non-contract days unless it was, there shouldn't be because it's a year-round position, but would be eligible for overtime, anything over your
and
40 hours.
leases,
Yep, yes, it would just be like any other position, other than it would be a year-round position.
And is it limited to 30, or is it possible increase to more?
So right now, we're starting with 30, sort of as like a pilot program, if you will. But we're closely looking at that and determine if there is a need for more. So right now, we're starting with 30.
Would their duty days be the 260 then?
It's the number of duty days as of any year-round, so it's a 260, but it's based on, I believe it's 236 duty days.
236, so for people just at home want to do the math, they would just do their hourly wage times the 236, would that be a correct way of doing
Right,
that?
and we did have what the annual amount would be.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't see, I apologize.
I thought we did.
Oh, no, actually, we don't, that's,
No,
yeah.
we
No,
don't.
we did not have that? Okay,
No.
we'll do the calculation and we'll give it to you.
Okay, and when we say like 260 days, then it becomes 236, does that mean those difference of 24 days are days off? Additional,
No, of course, it's always very complicated when it comes to our salary pay. But when you're looking at, I would say for duty day comparisons, it would now be from the 206, which you're used to, it would be a 30 additional days.
Okay.
Is that you would be looking at.
okay, thank you.
And summer school would be included within there.
It would be obviously the same time. I mean, are they going to be restricted on days they can take off or vacation or anything like that? It would be restricted, though.
To my knowledge, it's the same
It would be the
as
same,
what you have right
same
now.
procedure as you would any.
It's going to be the same.
That's about 56,000 to 600 on the.
We can get the official.
Approximately.
I always like to not do those calculations myself.
I
I
know.
want to make sure
Just a rough
these two
guesstimate.
people see it and agree with it first.
sure
Or
Mr.
else
Mitchell
you'll
could
see
come up with
somebody
that like
new
that.
at the next session. So,
Okay, we'll probably have to caucus on that.
okay.
and I just wanted to clarify, so the reason for that would obviously be to cut down on overtime during the summer. You don't have to pay people to work, the summer schools. But is that cost effective for the district when non-contract rate is $40 an hour to hire full-time employees now and pay them their regular salary wage plus their benefits and everything to work the same days?
Well, this is also an effort to try to reduce the vacancies that we have. We are using outside agencies, so this is a way that we heard the union, we heard the officers, and this is a way to try to attract more officers to come to work in Palm Beach County.
We don't use outside agencies in the summer for summer schools, so that's a wash there.
Not for the summer school, but for just the number of vacancies that we have.
All right. I just know from experience, and that the department, people come here for the time off, not because they want to work more time, so.
Well, and that's why why it's strictly voluntary and why we're starting with just the number of vacant positions that we have in order to see whether this really does attract additional officers. We didn't want to make it mandatory anyway. It's voluntary, starting strictly with vacant positions, and that's why it's a pilot. And so we can see whether there is any interest in it.
So if somebody gets hired under this and they're requested, can they go backwards later on and go back to a 206, or they're stuck in that position?
I would say that if a position is available, yeah, I don't see any reason why not.
And I
So
mean,
they will be able to go backwards, right?
And we have that now with our other positions where there's an employee that works a certain number of duty days, but we have positions that have multiple different duty days that they can work. And as long as it's something that the employee is requesting and agreeing to, and as well as the supervisors at their school sites, we've always let them reduce the number of duty days if that's something they wanted to do.
And I think having a mix of positions like that really makes us, you got to work, to recruit, you have to try to find, well, what would get people here. And for some people, it's the scheduled 206, right? It's a nicer schedule. And if somebody doesn't want to work year-round, well, that's a great option. But then, even through our discussion so far, we've talked about how, well, some people can't come here or can't stay here because they don't work full year-round. So there's another way to address that end of it. So I think there's two different options here that make us a much more attractive organization for some officers, so.
That's also a double-edged sword, though, for the officers that are working here, barely making it and looking for that little bit of overtime here and there. Now you're eliminating that by doing this. So I think it's going to work against you, if anything.
I just think that it could be a good thing, it could be a bad thing. I'll have to talk with them more about it, but I think that we need to discuss like the nitty-gritty details more, especially if it is just like a pilot program. We need to, figure out how that's going to work and how it's going to affect the officers.
And just out of curiosity, what if we didn't get 30 people to volunteer to do that?
We could hire,
Oh, okay.
so.
Because then you're hiring people for a pilot program. I just think we need to parse it out a little bit more, but we need to talk
I
about
mean,
it.
I agree. I think it's not a bad idea. It could be good or bad, too. I just think that the only problem that I have, there's not enough details. Like, and I guess what I want to say, too, like in the summertime, if somebody's on a 12-month, couldn't they take a week off during the summertime?
Well,
I mean, and because that's kind of what they're here for, is to work those days during the summer. Would they be available?
That's all stuff we need to.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Right.
saying. So, I mean, I think that's kind of the thing that would scare me a little bit, agreeing on something that's not in writing yet, the full scope of the job position.
And in terms of the pilot program and your concerns with that, it's a pilot program in terms of whether to expand it.
Yeah.
Is it attractive enough that we quickly fill up all 30 positions and then we possibly want to expand it at that point? Not to then turn around and say, okay, we're going to take it away. And that's why it's voluntary.
Okay. Okay. So we'll talk more about that. Do you want to go through everything?
Sure.
or-
Sure, we can, if you'd like to now, or if you want to.
Yeah, let's do everything.
Yeah, let's do that.
All right, so in the first piece, and a lot of the stuff was just, maybe capitalization or grammatical issues. I didn't include those in this chart here.
Okay.
But those can be made and we can review them if needed. But the increased compensatory time, annual recurring max, 24 to 40. So our as I've mentioned before, we'd like to maintain current language, but the chief I did have a discussion with her, and she's considering this request and working to determine how it's feasible. So it's not a hard no, but it's not ready yet. So she does, we did talk about it though, and she is going to look at it. As already mentioned, for Article 1711, the outside detail increasing from $35 to $40 per hour is agreed to. The outside detail cancel less than 24 hours prior to the scheduled start time. Officers shall be entitled to compensation for the scheduled length of time for said outside detail or extra work or 3 hours pay, whichever is less.
So she was good with that. That was the committee.
Yes.
Any changes to the police school year duty calendar are subject to bargaining prior to implementation, so that we're really maintain current language. We do know that we'll have discussions about it, but the proposed joint study committee for overtime wheel. So I talked with the chief about this, and she feels that we really need some more work on this. There were a lot of things that we just didn't feel it was ready yet. And this, I know through reading it, you know, it's for implementation beginning in January of 2023. So she's just requesting that we do some more work together on this item.
What's the status quo on it?
Right now, it maintains status quo. Whatever procedures you follow in the department right now is what you continue following.
I don't believe there is any procedure right now in the department. That's the whole reason why we were trying to get this straightened out.
Well, and we're in agreement on that. We definitely, you know, like I said, we're willing to work with you to come to an agreement. It's just, she feels there's more work that needs to go into this.
We have it till December anyway,
So
right?
this was supposed to sunset in December of this year, so I'll talk with them about it, but maybe we could just push back the sunset date then. What were her concerns, just like the,
I didn't, she
Procedure.
did not have time to really go too deep into it, but it was just, there was not enough information in it to say like who goes to the bottom or when, and if you're passed for how, she just felt that there's more work needed to go into it. So she's not opposed to putting something in place, not at all, just that there's a little more work to be done.
because this is just like a standard overtime wheel. But we'll talk about it.
Okay. The personal leave,
Oh, can we talk about the WEX cards too? Do you guys have like an anticipated date?
I do not. Nothing, no. I do not.
Not
no.
even for the call-out guys, or like, I thought we were gonna make that a priority.
I know that she is. I don't, but I don't have a date, but I can find one out. I could find out today.
Tim,
Back
just
to you.
on that, anybody that has an immediate need can articulate it, and we'll give them the card. Nothing's keeping them from getting it today.
Okay.
Chief, I don't know if you're aware, but I spoke to Captain Scopelitis, who had a list already of officers that needed it, and he was told to hold off. So he's not aware of the agreement, of the situation that we're in. So
Yeah, he
some-
doesn't answer to me, so I don't know where he's getting direction from, but I can look into it.
Okay.
One of the on-call, right?
Yeah, I'm also, both of us are on-call officers too, that still don't have the wax cards. And one other thing about the wax cards, it was just a thought that came to mind, but our vehicles are flex fuel vehicles. So the price of E90 or whatever it is, E85, is like 50, 80 cents cheaper than a gallon of normal gasoline. Wouldn't it be beneficial for us to fill up with that E85 instead of at local gas stations and save the district even more money per gallon if the vehicles take both fuels?
Possibly. I really am not prepared to answer that. I don't know.
I know that at gas stations, when I look, a gallon of gas is $4.60, but E85 is $3 and change. So you might want to look into that. And then this way you can give us a bigger raise next time.
All right, moving on. Leave.
The personal leave. So when I talked with Chief Mooney about this, and this was something that I feel was just added just now. This isn't something that came up before.
This was I put this in for the last meeting. People have been having a hard time getting their personal leave days. So there needs to be some kind of a procedure for how they put in for it and when they can get it, because from what I hear, they just get the runaround when they try to use a personal leave day.
Okay. So one thing that, it's in the general order, and it says at least 2 weeks, I think it says, right? So
Does it? I don't recall.
I think
reading
it,
it's in the general order.
I think it says a week.
No, it's 2 weeks.
2 weeks? No.
So one thing that she
Well,
noticed.
we could
and-
talk about the days, but I don't remember reading 2 weeks.
Yeah, I remember 1 week, and I think it's actually on the form itself. It says a week in advance, but I could be wrong.
I think
I'll
that's just for.
I'll try to pull one
I
up.
think that's just for comp time.
And what's this?
This is personal leave.
Personal leave.
I don't see any time period under personal leave for the GO.
You're in the GO right now? Mm-hmm. It's under,
On page 4.
1 second.
Oh, okay, 2 weeks.
It's like the last one.
Okay,
The week is for, on the form is for comp time.
Release, yeah, shall be approved at least 2 weeks in advance when possible. So,
so we could change that to 10.
yeah, and what she was, like, going through in her head was the additional language about, it being an operational necessity to be here. So, if that is some language that you're really looking at having added to it, she was receptive of that, so. To the GO.
You mean
Add our language.
Well, it was
to
just.
add our language to the GO, you just don't want it in the CBA?
Correct.
Okay. That should be fine.
I feel like that was, in our discussion, my discussion with the chief, though, that was another item that she was looking at closely and, not opposed to approaching it with an open mind to see, what works best. And hopefully that, remember, one of our efforts here of trying to, come with the, increasing the hourly rates, adding new positions with, that are 12-month, is hopefully that we can get to that point where we're fully staffed. And that was one of the biggest hangups that we started with during these negotiations, where because we're not fully staffed, we had concerns about coverage, right? So I think as we get further along in that, if this does work for us, then, hopefully we can start looking at some of these things that were concerns and addressing them as well. Officers submit all types of leave requests to immediate supervisor. So what we were suggesting was just to go with immediate supervisor here. That's in, we can add it to the CBA. It's from the GO though.
And that
where-
still has
where
to
you-
go via
where-
chain of command. It's got to still be all the way up to the top. Am I correct? Even if you're immediate supervisors, he can't,
That's who they report it to.
correct.
Okay, not lieutenant.
It doesn't go all the way to the top.
Well, not to the top, but I mean, when we put a request in, though, it still has to be, I mean, it still has to go through the chain of command, correct?
That's right.
Okay,
Yeah, not to the lieutenant.
that's correct.
Yeah.
So on the next item, we've talked about it a lot. And one thing that I discussed with the chief was you're looking to add unless the sick leave was used to care for an individual other than the employee or to attend a routine doctor's appointment. And one of the things that we originally discussed was how do we know that? How do we document that? How do we really put, uphold this? And I think we came a long way, and we're right there with having it that, the sick leave, you don't miss, if you're out on Friday and you had something over the weekend, you don't miss those because you had to wait till Monday. So, but in trying to work with you on this and get to where, somewhere where we want to be was to add unless otherwise agreed to by the chief or designee. So it was as a way for her to, because sometimes extenuating circumstances may come up, and she is willing to consider that in this approach, so,
Okay. That should be fine, I think.
okay? For moving the military service to paid leaves, we just would prefer to leave everything where it is. The policy does address how things are paid in the first 30 days. Sorry? Right, we follow the statute, so.
Okay. It just made more sense to me since it's actually, partly paid, but that's fine.
I hear you. For the paid administrative sick leave days for COVID-19, we're not in agreement to add anything there. We've already agreed on the $37 per hour to $40 per hour increase for non-contract day. And there you see the min-max and the officers' hourly rates to be increased. And on the sergeant special duty assignment, so this is a big one because there were a lot of different things that came into it as well, and I feel like we have some work that we still have to do. We didn't really understand the need to go in January 1st, 2024 to revert back to the 5 years.
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry, I didn't catch it.
On the first section, it was, we're going to 3 years, and then part of what you added was that January 1st, 2024 will go back to 5 years. So it's basically saying that we'll go back and change it back to what we're changing it from right now in 2 years. So we have no problem, reviewing this to, working together, and agree to continue discussions, but it could come back up during discussions in the next session.
So for the discipline section, you're just proposing suspension or demotion, but then it just says discipline relating to any serious job-related incident. So any discipline? Because who determines what's a serious job-related incident? Or is
Well, that's what's in there right now. But there were,
Right, so we try to, specify more.
mhm.
So did you guys mean to delete just discipline to make it only suspension or demotion?
Within the previous 2 years. Oh, yeah, that was another thing. I think did you have 5?
Well, we took out, just, I don't know if that was in there before, but just to say discipline related to any serious job-related incident, that's just really vague.
Right, I understand.
I don't think discipline's vague, it's outlined. Yeah,
Well, it could be anything, it could be like a verbal, or,
yeah.
yeah, well, we don't agree to that. Because you're saying suspension, demotion, or just any discipline related to any serious job-related incident. That could be anything that the command staff says that they think is serious in your file.
Discipline is specifically outlined.
I know, but related to what's a serious incident is what I'm saying.
And it doesn't indicate whether you were found guilty of this or not, or just the accident.
A verbal reprimand should not be for something serious.
Exactly.
Right, yeah.
I think we could work a little bit more on that.
Yeah, I think that would hurt you guys too, just as much as it's hurting us. I mean, that's a verbal reprimand could be just you,
You were late for a detail.
late for a detail for 5 minutes, and you can get a verbal reprimand for that.
That's not discipline under our collective bargaining agreement.
Right, so discipline as per the bargaining agreement.
Pull it up.
But we can, we're happy to look at that a little deeper.
So written warning would be under the,
Written reprimand, I don't know, written warning.
Right,
written
no,
warning
not,
is-
not a written warning, not like conference notes, no, like a
I think,
written
isn't that in our,
reprimand.
isn't that in there?
I'm looking
That doesn't go into your file supposedly?
One with written notations.
Written notation, yeah.
29.
Fine tuning.
Yeah, it includes a verbal warning and a written warning.
Those are my words.
Yeah.
Tim, I'd suggest we talk about that,
Okay.
and come back to it.
The next piece was find the course, line supervision course. The next piece of education, what you had proposed was fine. Into some of the other pieces, so one thing that we wanted to address is reference of it being a promotion. It's really an additional assignment, not a promotion.
We look at it as a promotion, and I think, we know where this is going. It's a promotion. They're immediate supervisors. This has said promotional exam for years and years. I know the last test was given in 2016. It's promotional. Anyone who's from any other agency knows the process to become a sergeant. It's a promotional test. You guys have called it a promotional exam yourselves in the past, so.
And if you're going to plan on doing 12-month employees and bringing, to make it more of a traditional type of agent, it has to be a traditional position. I mean, that's something that really should be looked at anyway. I mean, it really, it's unheard of at any agency across the country, if you go to promotion of a sergeant, that it's a lateral transfer, because that's all you're calling it.
Yeah, I'm not familiar, but,
No, I mean, I've been in the business over 35 years, never in my life. Military, paramilitary, traditional law enforcement. You advance, it's called a promotion. It is what it is.
What's the fear of that side, of calling it just just calling it a promotion? Because that seemed to always be like you guys were treading very lightly on that word. If it's the same, if nothing's changing in the position itself, and you still have to go with progressive discipline if you're going to remove a supervisor or sergeant, why is that side so caught up on that word promotion? I don't get it.
so,
Can you speak in a microphone? I can't hear you.
Under the current contract, you do not have to go through progressive discipline to remove a sergeant. It's a special duty assignment. The chief can remove that position at any time.
There's no other assignment that requires an interview and an exam.
That's
And
exactly right.
It's an immediate supervisor. It's been considered a promotion.
That's exactly why.
But you still have
because
the
none of the other assignments require,
You still have the progressive discipline when it deals with wages and everything.
no, you don't. Not to remove the assignment of sergeant.
Well, if you remove the assignment completely, that's one thing, but if you're removing an individual,
This is like touching on the unfair labor
Then you
practice.
can move
So
any-
if you want to talk about it at the hearing, that's fine, but we think it's a promotion and we're not going to strike that language.
Then we don't have an agreement on that.
Okay, then we don't.
And regardless of what we decide on that anyway, either way, we need to look at it as a promotional thing, because it just doesn't make any sense.
you're going to scrap the whole sergeant's thing because of that word, right? Is that what you just said?
we're gonna talk more about it.
All right, thank you.
We did, Chief Mooney was okay with this going to 75%. The other pieces that really we have to work out is how you're saying that you're selected just based on your score. Do you know what I'm referring to?
Right, so is that the status quo language for the interview? That you have?
Where are we talking?
The back page, number 4.
Yes.
Because right now, it doesn't even say, like, the total amount of people on the panel.
I don't know that it would normally.
I mean, I think that it should.
Well, what if it changes, though? I mean,
We
you
could
know,
put
of
whatever
all
we
the
want in
interviews
here.
that we do, you know, there's some, like, I've sat on interviews where there's literally like 25 people. Others where there's 6
So
or
how about a
7.
minimum and maximum? Minimum of 3 panelists to a maximum of 5, something to that effect.
I recommend that we meet industry standards. You know, if we want to seek police officers to work year-round like a traditional agency and such like that, there's no reason for this not to, again, just meet what traditional law enforcement is doing, just to make it a more professional-looking position.
Okay.
I don't know if an interview's been held here in a while, but I mean, I think that we should say how many people are on the panel and who they are more specifically, because I remember last year you guys even proposed having Mary Powell sit on the panel. So I think it should be sworn. I mean, if you want to have one non-district law enforcement person, that's fine. But I think it definitely should be at least sworn.
Those are usually traditionally like an HR person or.
We can definitely review that a little further.
Okay, you guys want to go talk?
I also don't want everything else that we're working towards here to be derailed by this, all right?
I
So,
agree.
Yeah,
Agree.
let's not
We-
get
we-
hung up on some of these items. Let's, you know, we're here today to try to reach an agreement where we can, at least, you know, maybe in total or at least in part.
Right.
So, I know, we're not digging our heels in here, so,
Okay,
okay?
all right,
Thank
we'll
you.
go talk.
Did they come up with something for the paychecks, I guess, for the guys with the gap things, do you know? I know we.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, before the session, Heather was speaking with Katie about it, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it makes sense how she broke it down. She can explain it to you guys.
Do we have something we can send out to our guys too?
Yeah, I'll talk with her about that.
I'm a little illiterate on myself, so every time they call me, it's.
Oh, don't ask any,
Confusing.
yeah, it's not easy to explain, it just
No,
isn't.
no.
Um,
I mean, I
But-
keep telling them you're getting your paychecks, but you know,
Right.
it's still, they want question, you know, and they don't believe me, even though I tell them it, but.
It's hard to understand.
I don't know why, you look so trustworthy.
All right, you want to?
Are we ready?
Yeah, I don't know where Heather is, she's not out there, so.
Okay, so 17.1C, we're fine with maintaining the current language. Hopefully, Chief Moody can look into that more, and we'll probably discuss it next round of reopeners.
Okay,
17.11 and 12, we agreed to. Thank you. 17.14 and 17.15. So we talked about this a lot, and we think that it could be a really good idea, the 12-month employee. But we think that we didn't really discuss it a lot in the last sessions, and it's going to come with a lot of its own, you know, they're going to have different sets of terms of employment. So we thought that we could do, since you all wanted to keep or talking about the seniority wheel, we proposed that we can do a continued study committee on the use of 12-month positions and the, you know, benefits that go along with that, because that's going to really need its own detailed section in the contract. And then along with that, we could do the seniority wheel, and then we can also do the AB squad versus the old summer schedule, and then do all of those things in one continued committee. And that we propose to sunset, extend it to 2023, but we would talk about it in this upcoming reopeners. So the
overtime wheel?
the overtime wheel, the 12-month positions, and the calendar, and they would accept the June and July calendar for this year, but they do, and since you all acknowledge that it's related to the 12-month positions, they want to talk about that with the 12-month positions more. So that could be a continued study committee over this year, and then we will obviously meet again by the end of the year or the beginning of next year. So, and we thought you can meet by August of 2022.
And in that study committee, that's to talk about the calendar?
The calendar, the seniority wheel, and the proposal of 12-month employees, because they're going to have their own set of benefits. They're going to have different leave. They're going to have, different things like that. So they really need their own. We haven't had a chance to talk about it the last sessions. I think we didn't talk about it the last session. So we need to, break that down a little bit.
We like it. We just want to see some more detail to it, just so that somebody knows what they're walking into if they volunteer to do it.
And then it would be subject to full bargaining at reopeners.
If you could give me one
Sure.
minute, okay? Okay, thank you. So on the 12-month positions and ironing out, all the other things like annual days and stuff like that goes along with it, our interest would be to move on that as quickly as possible. Where maybe by the end of the month, we can even have an MOU or something like that to address it. I'm talking about getting meetings going right now.
Like with the full team? I honestly didn't know your all schedule, so with the summer, but I mean,
I think I know it's a priority. I know the chief wants that to, move forward as quickly as possible, and really, I do think it just gives us, it makes us that employer that has very much different options and will help us hopefully find new people. So that's
I'm booked through
our
June,
goal.
but I could meet probably the last 2 weeks of July, and are you guys free the last?
We're off those last 2 weeks.
If there's particular days, I'm
Yeah,
sure
why don't you guys send us some dates?
we can make arrangements if we need to.
So can we separate it out where, we'll meet to talk about the other things, but with the 12-month position and all those little details that, it's really no different than any of our other 12-month positions with annual days, things like that.
I'm not really up to date on all that, so I don't know if
Right.
we can agree to that today, like actually agree to the 12-month positions. That's why we thought it should be part of the committee. But if you want to do the committee for like the overtime wheel and the calendar, then that's fine. But then I would still like to have like a full real bargaining session and all of that. But if you want to, take it out of that. But we are open to it. We think it's a good idea, but we just can't agree to it without seeing all of the details.
You do agree that it would have to be part of the contract, though?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, an MOU is just a quicker way to get
No, no,
through it, I think.
I get
but-
it. Yeah, we agree with you on that.
In June, we're off all this. Both
I think
squads.
what we'd like to is, we strive
I don't have
to,
it July.
to
Let me
meet
see if I can pull it up.
with you in regards to that, because I think it is a very good option. It's just that to be able to, obviously, to rectify everything here and come to an agreement, so we're all on the same page, so when our members ask us, well, what do I get for working 12 months here?
And I think that's something we could put together very quickly,
Right.
because we have many positions like that.
Right.
That's what we're all on.
I think that
So-
would be, so somebody's not walking in blindly. And I think
Right.
that's kind of what it is. And
I
I'm
agree.
afraid that they couldn't.
Because in the
determine.
past, there was a certain rank put out there, and people came away, they didn't have the necessary information to make a prudent decision, so that's what we're striving for.
July 18th is Squad A and B are both at work, so if you want to meet on July 18th and get us your proposals like before then, so we can look at them, then that would probably be the most productive way. And I'm free July 18th.
Both squads are in June 10th. June 10th to Friday. Here, right here. AB.
That's like this week.
Right, so my thought on that is that, some of the work on this, it could be a shared document that we can put things together and comments could go back and forth. I mean, it could be
You don't want
a
to meet
work.
in,
I'm sorry?
you don't want to meet in person?
No, I'm saying prepping for.
Before?
Just to, where it doesn't necessarily need to start with the meeting. I think it needs to start with us putting all the information down.
That's fine.
Because it's, we have this, and then sharing it, I just feel as though reaching, an understanding on that would come a lot quicker than we think. And the only reason I say this is because we have so many positions like this now that it's, it's not,
fine. Do you-
it's not so complicated, like it doesn't add this whole new
And
type of.
I envision it as like a new article, is that?
Right. Well, it is addressed in other bargaining agreements too, so,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah, we could do like a Google Doc.
Yeah, all right, I will take that action, get that going.
And then for the committee, we can do the calendar and the seniority wheel.
Do we want to, real quick, just go back on that? Set a date for July 17th, though?
Or the
We have
18th.
July 18th.
Or the 18th, or whatever?
Well, I think that, we can definitely hold that date, right?
Okay, how
and
will we plan, so you
we'll
don't give
hold
the
that
room away to
date,
somebody
right.
else? Yeah.
No, yeah, we'll hold that date, but I really do think that once that we put some of this information out there, it might be
Quicker.
maybe we'll be able to reach it quicker
Maybe
than
we
that.
could even do Zoom.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'm fine, I'm open to any option, because I really think that, it-
That
it
actually
would
might be a good option.
Zoom may be good. So.
Yeah.
be- Okay.
You can do it from Italy. Just say ciao at the end.
Do you want to keep going?
Yeah, this is the status quo contract, so I thought we could just add language about the calendar and well, it already had it for the seniority system, for the current 17.15.
I'm sorry, say that again?
For the current, the current contract 17.15,
Yeah.
I thought we could add, if we take out discuss the frequency through timely manner, that covered what we agreed to in the other section, so we could, I'll just give you this is really messy.
Discuss the frequency at which the outside details or extra work. That's all right.
So just basically get rid of that, because that's what we agreed to in the other section, and then we put, just the calendar, and then I just said that the committee should meet by August, and then, but it'll still be part of, like, the same language with reopeners.
Okay.
And we could probably phrase that in a better way, that's just my.
So my only thought is on the, the AB squad calendars, like, in speaking with Chief Mooney this morning even, she feels as though the efforts towards going to the 12-month positions will help to maybe eliminate that. But I can't say that, and at 30, if we have 50 sites, there still might be some need initially. I don't know that, how soon that will go away, right?
Well,
I
at
mean,
least it's part of the study committee, and we're fine with June and July of this year, but we want to
okay.
talk about it.
Just not bound to any
No, it's
agreement
just
on
saying
something.
we'll
just that
bargain
we'll-
it
okay.
in reopeners again.
Okay, all right,
But even though July starts 2023 calendar.
We
We'll-
want to
we'll-
leave
we'll-
the,
we'll
all
leave
the
it the way
summer
it is,
months
yes, like you
open
have
to
it
talk
now.
about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
okay.
But not June of next year.
I thought you guys wanted to do all the summer months of next year.
No,
We
I'm
can't do,
saying-
we can't do something.
No, it just so for edification purposes, our calendar right now begins July 1, 2022 to June 30th, 2023. We are all in agreement that we shouldn't mess with people's schedules that are starting in a month from now. However, to consider the elimination of the AB in June of 2023. That's when this would end.
Right.
And the Fridays that the district has off also for the following year calendar.
Okay. So we're agreeing to meet, to discuss.
To bargain.
And we got a year to worry about that anyway, so.
To bargain as the committee in reopeners, yeah. Okay, so 20, Article 20, right? Oh, did I skip through?
Skipped all
I
18s.
skipped 18. Okay, so we're good with putting that language in the GO for 18.2A. We're good with, instead of sergeant for 5, immediate supervisor, that's fine, it's the same thing. Section 7, were you guys okay with adding domestic partner, or?
We just, remember, we discussed this, we just didn't feel the need because it says or member of the
Okay,
immediate
okay.
household, which is the same definition.
Okay, that's fine. And then, so we're fine with your language for section 7. Otherwise agreed to by the chief, that's fine.
Okay.
Military service, the language is the same, but we're fine with keeping it in the same place, that's fine. Let's see. COVID, that's fine, we'll drop that. So I think that settles 18.
Yep.
So 20.1 and 2, those were just titles, so I think you said you're
Right,
fine with that.
right. I didn't include those on here, but they're already corrected in the draft
Okay,
agreement.
and then 20.4 and 20.5, we agreed to those. 20.12, I would like, I don't know if you agreed to that, but I would like that language in there, because I would like, as the PBA, we should get direct notice of any future pay gap.
Okay, it's not on here. They did though, right? They have done that.
Well, through the
Correct.
reps, but I would just like it sent directly to the association.
Okay.
Yeah. Which it probably won't happen again for a while.
Right. Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
Okay. So, the only thing open is the sergeant's article 20.10. 1 and 2, we wanted to talk about. I think we have the same for 3 and 4. So we really wanted to leave the reversion clause in there. And 2, we think is an issue because the phrase relating to any serious job-related incident is very vague.
I think we have a solution. We talked about it. Where we said that, I had too many papers. Where is it? It was starting with, it was in the discipline, C and D, where it was, where we can, address it specifically.
Did you all mean to delete all of D?
I'm sorry, what?
Other regulations, subsection D?
Oh, no, no, it wasn't deleting.
Oops.
Let's see.
This is the contract now. Yeah, this is our proposal.
Where is the discipline? I had it out.
And I think we are fine with leaving the interview process the same, but we did want to discuss the rule of 5 proposed.
So with the discipline, what page is discipline on? 70?
Article 29. Is that what you're looking at?
Got it. Okay. So we were saying that it would, only C and D.
You're looking at the discipline article?
Yeah, page, let's see, 74 maybe, so Article 29-8, where it's, not to include verbal warning with written notation, not to include the written warning, but to start with the written reprimand, which is filed in the employee's personnel file. To start there.
And that would be for a serious, or that would be for any? Because a repeated violation on a written warning can be a written reprimand for a minor infraction.
Why would there be 2 of them?
In history.
So what
you
we're
could-
trying to get at is, I
So-
don't think we want to hold anyone back, but if someone doesn't correct their actions going forward, that's not a good candidate for a supervisor.
So I think our proposal is good then, because we propose 2 or more written reps, and then anything higher. Within 5 years. Ours is actually more strict than yours, I think, because you have 2 years.
Well, the reason, remember, the reason we brought this out was to give more opportunities, you know, because we felt it limited. It was too limiting as is. So that's, you know.
So we would
We're not
maybe-
trying to,
It's-
Would you be happy with our proposal, but change 5 years to 2 years?
I just, if I'm correct, a written warning comes out of your file in 12 months.
We're not including written ones.
Yeah,
no,
they
we're not,
just-
we're not including that.
No, but if 2 written warnings,
No, you're
2 years.
confused.
All right.
He's just confused a
Written
little.
reprimand, or?
They just want to do written rep suspension and dismissal, not written warning.
Okay.
I think we'd be okay, changing 5 years to 2 years?
Yeah, that's fine.
So no record of suspension, 40 hours or more, demotion, or written reprimand.
Do you want to, are you guys okay with 1 written rep in the past 2 years? So our proposal of, well, I don't know why we're limiting the suspension if we're counting a written rep.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Like, I don't know why we would have the hours on the suspension if we're counting the written rep. So no record of a written reprimand, suspension, or demotion resulting from an IA investigation within the previous 2 years with the district or any previous law enforcement agency. I would keep that part.
I did have something on that. It was whether or not a suspension can happen for maybe like an accident. Can that happen?
Well, it would probably be because you're at fault. But
Um,
under progressive
I think that's
discipline, I
why-
would think that it would be a written rep first before a suspension. So that's why we really had 2 written reps, because anything, you can get a written rep for anything. I think our proposal's good, but you changed the 5 years to 2 years. Our proposal?
With hours?
Yeah.
5 years to 2 years.
Okay, so it says any suspension of 40 hours?
Outside, right? Or is that just
Okay.
inside?
Can we go with no record of suspension, demotion, or written reprimand within the previous 2 years with the district? 2 written reprimands, I'm sorry.
So no record of 2 or more written reps, suspension or demotion within the previous 2 years with the district or any other agency, or you just want the district?
No, not any other agency, because I don't know how we would even track that, you know.
Public record.
Yeah, but why would you want to tie them to anything with another agency? That's
I-
more restrictive.
Well, you're not eligible anyway for the sergeant's test anyway.
Right, in 2 years, you wouldn't be eligible anyway,
Okay.
right? So no record of suspension, demotion, or 2 written reprimands with.
Yeah,
right,
no record of
Right,
2 or more written reps, any suspension or demotion within the previous 2 years. I think that's good.
That makes it very easy.
And we were okay. Three and 4 are the same, except for, we thought you needed to submit that evidence before sitting for the exam.
The line supervision?
No, for evidence of the educational prerequisite or,
Military.
yeah, military.
Right. It must have either. So can I write at a minimum, the applicant must have either of the following and must be verified prior to sitting for the exam?
Sure. Must have either verified prior to sitting for the promotional exam.
Requirements verified prior to sitting the exam. Okay? Sorry? All right, and then you were talking about the wheel, or the rule of five, right?
The first part, the years on, did we skip that? Because we were okay with the 3 if we had the reversion.
Oh, yeah, I don't really, I'm really not in favor of that,
Of what?
of reverting back.
Well, hopefully if your staffing's better, it won't be a problem.
That was kind of the whole idea of it in the first place. It was to give it some leeway for the first couple of years.
But what about if you hired someone and they came like that close to getting it, and all of a sudden, it
That's the
jumps
problem,
ahead
though.
2 years? You know, when you're hired on with the thought that in 3 years I can have the, or
That could be
let's
at
say
any
you're
time.
hired.
No matter what number you put there, that could be the same thing. You could put 2 years, it could be I just missed it by a month. If I
Right, but when they,
in
but
5
when
years.
we get, yeah, but I hear you, but it's, I don't know, I mean,
You want
working
to try to put
towards
your
it.
most competent and qualified people who are with the district too.
Right now, it's 5, so we're
Yeah.
trying to work with you, but we aren't comfortable making it lesser permanently. So we can always reevaluate in the next year or 2.
Yeah, we still have time to play with it.
By the time everyone will have 5 years, that's why we want, that's why we said.
This is something you guys always wanted.
doesn't seem to be,
Actually,
if it doesn't seem to be
Right.
going the way they want it, we can always talk about it again.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my concern is just that, we're really trying to do this to find the best the people qualified for the job, not in, removing some of the barriers here is, if the rest of your process is right, 3 or 5 years, shouldn't matter. If your process is right and you're going to find the best people for the job, then that's what will happen. But, it's just another barrier, and, I don't know what the norm in the industry is, but,
We kind of got that from the norm. That's where we came up with the idea. That's why where we've,
5 years hasn't been my experience. I've seen 3 years to be very typical.
usually it's 3 years, but with either prior military or prior law enforcement experience somewhere else, with supervision prior. It's not just the 3 years. See, that's, our concern is you have somebody come in just on the job after 3 years, is eligible, and has no previous experience, but can write on a test. Does that make them more qualified than the guy that's been here for 5 years? That maybe gets 1 point less on the test? I think you have to reward a little bit of longevity, too. But, I mean, we have 2 years, I mean, we're to 2024, so a year and a half, I mean, we can revisit if it's not working to the satisfaction of management anyway at that point, then we can always still talk about it.
So, Tim, can I,
They can reopen it.
I'm wondering if there's any flexibility on how we maybe revisit it to discuss, but, without putting in, reversing to 5 years, having that in there.
I don't know how we would do that.
I know, I'm just thinking though, that, like, the other way is if we put that in there, getting it out is going to be a lot harder, right? I just,
Well, we're trying to work with you, but
well, we are too. I mean, remember, this is to benefit the employees. This is to make sure that the district has
also
people
want
who
their
have these
seniority
opportunities. Right now, we
respected.
have very few who are eligible for this. So, in many ways, you could almost look at this request as a, request that the union would bring. We're trying to open up opportunities.
Hopefully by then, you will have enough people that won't be leaving in the next 2 years that'll be promoted to sergeant anyway, and
Right.
then we won't even have to worry about that
And that,
issue.
and that,
So that's kind of why if we leave it at with the ability to open it back up, go as we have it suggested, is then, if it doesn't work out, we understand that you have to fill the positions, so we'd be more than willing to reopen it if we needed it to. I don't think it'd be a problem, and I think that it would be beneficial for us if we couldn't fill those positions at that point. But I think there's gotta be, we have it currently at 5 years now. I mean, that's what the status is now.
right.
And we understand, that's why we kind of said, let's move it down for you, and we
see how
can
it goes.
reopen it. I don't think any of us would have a problem with reopening it, but then again, if you don't put something in writing, then what do you do? Then we're gonna be fighting about it,
We'll
yeah.
be here in January.
Exactly.
Each side gets two reopeners every year, so.
We should have most of those positions filled before the new school year anyway. And we shouldn't, I mean, then we can, visit it at that point,
I just think that at some point, well, if we are able to fill those positions, following a change, then hopefully there's a likelihood that, you don't have a whole lot more to fill, right?
we hope that we don't have the turnover.
There's some stability, correct. So I really just don't see, I just don't see the need to revert back to 5 years. I just don't. I just think it hurts the department's overall operations and how they want to, move forward with this.
If I may, just looking at this from prior experience, if I was management, the way this is written, I'd be very much concerned about it. Because I'm going to have someone who's been here 3 years, and depending upon their work, reflects their knowledge of everyday things that we do. If you're in a school or something where nothing goes on, they're not really going to know much, to be honest. I'm trying to make it simple language, which we've all run into. And then by them not taking, and prior to being eligible for the position, not having under previously went through a first-line supervision class, this is what we're going to have. We'll have someone who has 3 years on, possibly, right? who, depending upon where they work, their experience is either, if they're in a busy, they're in a high school like Mike or I, they know what's going on, or other slower schools, they don't know what's going on, and then they never have supervision, any supervisory, either experience or a class. That would be my concern if I was a command staff personnel, is that my supervisors should know what they're doing. They should know, to be able to be a supervisor, you have to be able to supervise your subordinates. So if you don't have the knowledge to supervise your subordinates, that's a detriment to the organization.
I don't disagree with that, and I don't think that, management is looking at, people who don't have that skill set.
Oh, I just wanted to bring it,
Consume this.
I was brainstorming, I just wanted to bring that up as an issue I think that management might want to consider.
And we're not saying that somebody 3 years isn't qualified to be a supervisor, but it's just in the district.
Where they work,
Correct. Correct, absolutely, correct.
TSA for 3 years.
I mean, odds are we're gonna be back here soon on this article, so I don't think we can agree to that without the reversion clause.
And I think the management should look at the actual numbers of those incidents that occurred, of people that they actually gave supervisory positions to within that had less than 3 years in this agency. If my math's not correct, I think about half or more resigned from those positions and left the department or just resigned from those positions. So, history repeats itself. If you're trying to make it more attractive, obviously tried that already once before with less than 3 years, and it didn't work. So what's going to be different this time?
Would you be willing to adjust it to the January 1st, 2025?
No. I think that's too much time, in my opinion.
We're gonna be back here probably on this article soon, so I think this is what we're comfortable with doing right now.
Once again, the district's had these positions vacant. They had something in the contract since 2016. They chose to sit on it and do nothing about it, and all of a sudden it becomes an emergency. I don't think that's the right way to fix it.
It's a piece
I'm
of
just-
bargaining. I mean,
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, but it seems like a really strong push right now to get this in right now, and,
There's a trust thing going on too that's, I think it just still needs to be repaired a little bit. So this is, this is what we're comfortable
I
with.
understand that. I think, though, that, you've asked for a lot of things from us, and I think we've delivered. You asked us for, the 5% pushed on us. We went back to the board, and we got that. You brought up the hourly rate. What we have here today is an hourly rate that's higher than anyone else in Palm Beach County other than, I think it was Boca Raton.
I think that you're just painting it in an inaccurate light, though. You want to be competitive, too. An article came out that starting pay at PBSO is like around 58 or 59. I think they're higher than you by 15 or 17%. And you always say that, they don't have, you guys don't have holidays. No. So you may have less duty days, but you still work about the same amount of time. So to
And
just
so
paint
to
it
do that, though,
with the
we're
hourly
bringing
rate,
the
though, it's
12-month
not
positions.
accurate.
But then we're bringing the 12-month positions. There's a lot of different things that they're trying to do.
Right,
And it
and we're
doesn't just,
working with
it
you.
doesn't just happen overnight, though.
I know, which is
But-
why I wish you proposed this earlier on with the 12-month employees, because we could have talked about it a little more.
I understand that. But, some of it is a result of, going through the bargaining process and hearing what your concerns are. And it starts conversations and we get deeper into it. And we're really trying hard to come to an agreement.
Well, I think we could agree to what you want with the reversion clause.
And what's this, there's also, that's like a thought in my mind, what's to say that the district's not eventually going to say one day, well, we're not hiring anymore for the 206 position, so if you want the job, it's for the 236, and eliminate the 206 position eventually as everybody who's here either retires or leaves. There's nothing keeping it from being like a hostile takeover to change it from a 206 to a 236. There's no limit there.
Right, which is why we have to talk about it.
So,
I mean, I guess I understand your point there, but I wouldn't say that that's, you know, and maybe through time, then that trust will develop, right? But,
takes time.
you know, I agree. But I think that, you know, we've put a lot of things out there that that is showing we're trying. We really are.
And we appreciate it, we do.
Absolutely. We all-
And so, you know, but I will say that in terms of the 206 to, you know, the 12-month positions, you know, one of the things in talking with Chief Mooney about this was how attractive that makes us, because not a lot of agencies have that flexibility where you can have somebody who has a schedule of 206 versus a full 12-month position. I think that's what sets us apart. And you need to take advantage of those opportunities. So,
But if the department's doing its job and grooming and putting people in places where they're supposed to be, in 2024, we should have plenty of people on this agency that are eligible for that position. And they'll be here 5 years. I mean, that's going to be almost 50% of our department by then. Because you'll have, in our mid-1300s right now is been here almost 3 years. So 2 more years will get you to 5 years. I mean, and like I said, if we're having that much turnover, that's the least thing we're gonna be worried about right now, is worrying about if we're gonna go 2 years or 3 years or 5 years or 10 years, because it's just not working then.
all right. Give me a minute. As far as the other pieces of that, so if you go look at under B, examination, where you have candidates passing scores, you know, that you're selected in the order of your score, we would not be in favor of that.
Well, you guys proposed just the status quo, right, other than the exam score?
The exam score, yeah, pretty much, it's the chief's selection still. And I mean, I could even get information of how, you know, she plans on facilitating interviews, things like that.
Did you guys mean to delete D?
No, but what we would not be in favor of was, well, we wouldn't need the resulting in a second written reprimand, right? Or would we?
D, other regulations, you just wanted
Right.
to keep that status quo, right?
Correct, yeah. Yes.
Did we agree on one, or we're just talking
So
about everything?
as long as we can make sure the rest of it come to agreement on the other, we're willing to come to agreement on A for the experience. That'll revert back.
Well, we aren't okay with deleting promotional.
I'm okay with that.
Okay. So we would be okay with keeping B, C, and D status quo and changing only the exam score just to,
The 75%,
right.
right, we're fine with that. And so and then for 1, that it reverts back.
Okay.
And hopefully, we're right, where if we fill these positions and that we don't need to, you know, that we don't have positions to
Right.
fill.
Seems like we're always meeting, so sure, you can talk about it.
Okay.
Say it again? No, because we're just keeping it status quo for now.
Okay, oh, good,
You
good.
guys are good with that, right?
We gotta, let's caucus.
Well, okay, they want to caucus, so.
Yeah, I just want to go one quick question.
Just, we're both, he's a little confused, and so am I.
Okay, so because the pool is widening so much, if we agree to the changes under 2010 Section A, we wanted to at least keep there needs to be a ranking for the exam scores, because, and we're fine with this time not pushing the rule of 5, but there needs to be a ranking, because if we don't even put that in there, it'll be the same problem of the test scores and this interview. There's no, you can still just pick whoever you want.
And if you want the best quality, if you have 50 people taking a test, number 50 gets promoted to sergeant, is that a picking the best quality, or is that just picking somebody you want? So there's nothing to say that you're going for quality, you're just going for cherry picking then?
And you could make how it is at like a lot of other places, you can make the exam count for a certain percentage and then the interview count as another, if you want that. But I mean, the exam should have some meaning.
After taking a promotional exam, a list should come out shortly thereafter, informing all the test takers of essentially, obviously, who did the best, or everyone who passed that test, and a chronological listing from 1 to whatever it is, right? So our contention is not to make the mistakes of the past here. And the way of doing that is picking the most qualified person who put in the time and the effort, and hopefully that means they have the knowledge to have that position, that they've earned that position. What we, again, want to avoid is, and it's not obviously with Chief Mooney, the politics of the past are gone. We want to avoid, and it was a term that was used here, and it was very disrespectful, but we want to avoid the family and friends part of the department. Is that we want people who are responsible, professional supervisors to have a position where people are not just given the responsibility of just given the title. We want people to have earned it, and therefore we could all respect that lady or gentleman who took the exam and earned it.
And the fear is this, if we're, opening up the pool a lot with Section A, then it doesn't mean anything because there's no clarification on the exam for the score.
So your proposal has it where it's just whoever scores the highest gets it, right?
Well, we originally
Well, that's why
wanted,
we put a note to discuss the interview process.
we wanted to do the rule of five, which gave the chief more leeway, but there was nothing in there to say, so that if you do the rule of five, you can go all the way down to the fifth person and pick that person. You can't pass over
A
the same
person
people
more than-
more than once, but at least you can go to, the chief has the option to go to the fifth person to pick, It gives her a little bit more leeway, and it's a little bit more fair. In a traditional place, most of them are rule of three. But we were willing to go to rule of five to give them a little bit more leeway.
But most places, they don't have that yet mandated to take that person after you've passed them, like you can't pass them over. Every rule that I've dealt with was, you always have that ability to go three deep.
Yes,
So
rule of three,
you can
and that's kind of
pass
what.
that same person over again. I've never seen it where you have to promote that person if you've passed them once.
But, I'll agree with you on that, but the reason I think we're putting it in there is because, why would you do that, though?
Because you're not basing it just on test scores.
You're basing it on
There's an interview
interview, and you're
process,
basing
and
it
there's
on,
other
that's
things.
right, then they shouldn't have been in the top three then.
On the test score?
No, on the written part, on the
it breaks
verbal.
it
You're
down
saying
on
like a
the
combined
exam and
score.
the
It's about
interview.
combined, you do it like, see, our suggestion was, it wasn't on there either, we didn't put it before, is 80% on written, 20% on oral. Or you could put whatever you want to put. I mean, we're opening that up to you folks to, if you wanted to work with it either way, whatever, 50-50, 70-30. You have to give it both sides so it does avoid what we were just talking about. You can have number two on the list, and he's not a qualified supervisor, but he can write well, and he speaks well, and he has a good background, but you can change it a little bit.
And also, just to clarify, is when an exam is a notice is put out, obviously put out the date of the exam, and it indicates the breakdown of the percentages to comprise the list. So whatever percentages that would be agreed upon for the written and the oral would comprise the list, okay? So our contention, and obviously the Mike and the chief are more well-versed than I am in the state of Florida, whether it's 1 or 3 or 1 or 5, gives the chief the discretion to look into those individuals and pick the people that are best suited for it. Now, and I'm just based on my past experience, not here in the state of Florida, if someone gets passed up, there has to be a substantial reason why that person gets held up. Whether they have an internal affairs investigation that was kind of a heavy one in the past, they're currently under investigation for an internal affairs, an EEO complaint or such like that. They got very poor performance evaluations. There's something that is there to obviously to show this person this is what you need to clean up to be able to get the promotion. So what we are seeking, and I think ultimately you should want to seek as well, like I had said, is to get the best person for the job, no matter what they are. And we want to avoid the politics, which has been so prevalent here, and Alex has been here longer than me, over the last 16 years. You want to be able to put out a list, and if someone gets passed over, they should get an explanation of what they need to clean up their act to be able to get back in the game.
Okay, give me 1 second. All right, so on the selection process and the eligibility, so we're obviously not in favor of the 100, the ranking just based on the test score, but we are willing to do it a 50-50 split of the interview and test score at 75%.
If you can repeat that again, please, the whole thing?
So to be eligible, it's a 50% of your total score will come from your interview, 50% will come from the test.
Wow, what other agency uses that much of the interview as a 50%? I'm just curious.
I don't know.
Chief, do you have any?
Nope.
Did they use that in your last 50% of your score was your interview? I've never heard it that high. I've always heard it like either 10 or 20, between 10 and 20%.
I've never heard it that low.
You've never heard 10 and 20% in this county?
No, I'm just saying in my experience, I haven't heard it that low.
Yeah.
I did, I'd like to tell you a personal happened to me. They did that on the, after they threw out one sergeant's test because of fraternal organization cheating, I had to go back and take another sergeant's test. So to meet their needs, they made the sergeants, the patrol guide 50%, administrative part 50%. And what ended up happening, I had 3 wrong on a patrol guide out of 80, but because I got 8 wrong on the administrative, I fell down to number 31 on the exam, where I had less wrong on the patrol guide than the guy who was number 1. So therefore, this is what you're going to get. You're going to, an administrative or an oral is where politics comes into play. Nobody could tell me that it's not. If O'Sullivan is smart and I'm going to get an 80, but they don't like O'Sullivan, they're going to knock me on that administrative. So doing 50-50 is a way to be able to manipulate things to get one that the person wants. Whether Ms. Middleton, I don't know if you believe me or not, but that's what happens.
Well, we just said we just threw that out there as a thing, yeah.
I don't know whoever said that, but the 50-50 is totally
Say 50.
Yeah, but it didn't come from this side.
Yes.
I didn't say 50-50.
But it was just, I also
you
said
did.
80-20.
50-50 is totally unacceptable.
Start with is what I said, start with, okay? So you chose the 50-50, or I said you could 70-30, 50-50, 80-20. You chose the 50-50. So yes, I did throw that out. It was a suggestion.
That must have been in here, I didn't hear you, I would say no.
If we're trying to get the most qualified person, I don't get what the resistance is, though.
So,
What is-
Tim, if we're going to consider raising the weight of the test, then you guys have requested that we lower the passing score from 80 to 75.
No, we said 70 originally, you said 80.
That was,
It became the
but that was
75.
in a response
Yeah.
to to your side saying that the pool wasn't big enough. So in our efforts to work with you and to get you a little bit of a larger pool, we suggested to
Not looking-
lower the.
Just to be clear, we're not looking for a larger pool of ultimate, we're looking for a larger pool to take the exam, not to be in the hiring pool at the end. We want the hiring pool to be the best qualified. So that's why we're looking at an 80% pass rate for the written exam. If we had that, we could shift the weight a little bit more in favor of the exam, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, yes, I would agree to, I agree with your rationale, actually.
And you said to 70?
No, it's 75 now.
No, it's 80 now, right?
Currently.
Yeah, currently it's 80.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what did you want to move it to?
I agree wholeheartedly with you. If I may, I think the chief and I understand, what the chief is saying, we will broaden the pool for people to be able to meet the requirements to sit for the exam, but should not have to bring it down so much to ultimately get the actual pool of candidates. You want the best pool of candidates. Am I correct, sir?
Yeah, that's my position, and I think you see it, Kevin.
Oh, I understand. I think that's what everybody's whole goal and objective is. You want the most qualified people, not just a larger amount of people, the most qualified people.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah, but that's not, when you're going 50-50, you're making it more subjective.
No, but the reason why we came at it from 50/50 is because we were talking about a 75% pass rate. If we put more weight on the book work, then I think we'd be more comfortable to discuss
Oh, so
a
you're
different
saying
ratio.
Making it at 80%.
Yeah.
I'm good with that too. I got no problem making it a little bit harder.
But then there's no definitive structure to pick the final candidate. In the end, it's just
Wait, so you-
whatever you decide, whoever you decide you wanted.
No, that's not what we're saying. We're talking about having a definitive structure.
In the rank, in the exam, but the actual final product, the actual final picking,
Yep.
you're talking about,
Having structure in the final outcome.
how would that,
We would take the ratio of what we weight each side to. You'd come up with a final scoring, and then anyone above a 75 on that would be eligible.
would be eligible, but and then the pick would be at your discretion 100% from there on.
Yeah, because everybody has done approximately the same. Some have done better on interviews, other ones have done better on the test score, and then we have an eligible pool that the chief can work from.
Yeah, but so you still can have a possibility of 50 candidates, and you can still pick the 50th person,
The lowest in the pool.
the lowest in the pool.
Well, but we don't know whether that 50th person scored higher on the
What I'm saying
test
is
than they
you still
did
have a
interview.
ranking, though. You still, I mean, it should still be, when they pick the school district superintendent, they go, well, here's the list of the 3 qualified finalists. They don't go, here's the list of 50 that we're gonna be picking from. You know, so,
But Mike, the pool's a lot smaller for superintendent.
I understand. I'm being sarcastic is really what I'm being. It's, I'm,
Meeting, I should be there.
we agree with you. I'm all for making the 80, you know, on the written test and you know, weighting them a little bit different. But you still have to have some kind of a pecking order. That I mean, you can't pass over a guy who's standing way up here above and beyond just because you like this guy the way he makes you laugh.
And would the interview
mean-
be like objective-based questions, like an objective-based
It should
assessment?
be history, it should be your background, it should be your experience, it should be everything.
But how do we capture all that? How do we capture all that? Because I agree with you. How do we
In
capture all
your interview,
that?
that should be part of your interview.
Well,
Well, at other
history and,
places, you get points for your.
Resume?
I mean, it's all part of your interview. When you go in there, if you got a guy who, again, if you got a guy, just because I wrote real well on the test, I did real good on the interview, but I only got 3 years of experience. I don't even never been a police officer other than the 3 years sitting in an elementary school. But now I'm gonna be picked because you know what? I did the best on the thing. It should be at least something in there.
so if we're going to capture all that in the interview process, then we need to weight that in the final outcome.
I
Right, so
agree.
you would have to break it down with the scores, and then the interview should be more of an objective-based assessment.
So what it seems like is that we, you know, we're not meeting,
I think
We're not on
seeing
the
it
same
that
level.
we're
We need-
just going back to what we just did now, is just putting people into
this
positions.
needs to be,
It's gotta be somebody, the most qualified people for those positions. I'm all for making it the harder the better. That's where you're gonna get your quality from.
Yeah, we did that because I guess we were misunderstanding
Yeah,
what you
yeah.
guys wanted.
No, I'm all for making it a little bit more difficult.
We could TA everything else and then meet again on the sergeants.
or just leave
I
it for
feel
the
like we're
next
gonna have to
contract.
rewrite a lot of this now,
It
but
sounds like we're not that far off, though.
No, I
We
think
all
we're-
want the
we're
same
on
outcome,
I
right?
think we all have the
Right.
same goals and objectives here.
Yeah, but we're already an hour over our time allotted for this, too. We were scheduled to be from what, till 1?
No, I understand, but I think, Tim, if we're close, we should push. to
I
see if we
agree
can get
completely.
closer.
If we can.
I think so, too. I mean,
Too. I'd like
to get it, if it's a way to get it done, you get it done.
Because if, you know, another piece, you know, if, you know, we get something
Right.
done today, we could get it to the board June 15th. And, you know, get
Yes.
money into everybody's hands faster than if we delay this.
So here's my thoughts. We gave you a proposal that we worked back and forth on with both sides, and something that this side felt very comfortable that they can agree to. If you don't want to agree to it on a permanent basis, maybe just as a clause for like maybe a year or two, and then if you don't like it after that, you can just revert back to the status quo the way it was, or give it a shot. No?
We're trying to fix things, I think, long-term.
That was just my thoughts.
We need to get something solid in writing.
Yeah.
We're not
Yeah.
tweaking 2 years down the road.
I agree.
I agree. I really think that we're there. I mean, I think that there was a misunderstanding or something, but I think I'm 100%, and I think Mike is with yourself as well, Chief.
I don't think there's anybody here on this panel that doesn't want the most qualified people, whatever it takes to do it, and you're not gonna get any arguments from us if you wanna make it harder. That's not an issue with us.
Right.
So what is a possible solution then for that we could consider here?
If I may, and if I may, tell me if you understand. I think what I'm hearing from Mike on the other side as myself is that I think different words are being used, but our contention right now would be a list, a chronological list of those who passed, and this is the way they fall in the list, so people can see it. And we've given exams here, and we're being 100% honest. Well, you never saw a list. You saw people at a meeting who got promoted because he was willing to work nights. He raised his hand, and
never
they were
even
like, "You're
saw
the sergeant now."
results.
So we want this organization, because to be honest, it's been slipping a lot, is to be able to come back with a new life under a chief who I think is fabulous, that people look on it as a professional organization, because she has such a great reputation and respect from people in this county, that I could honestly tell you, there's nobody I have spoken to here, and I've spoken to a lot of people, not just my union president, union representatives, police officers, friends of mine that know Chief Mooney. I've never heard one negative thing about her. And I've had dealings with her, personal ones, and she is a great person. I enjoyed working with, as well, Chief Alexander was a great guy, Chief McCutcheon was a great guy, and I just want to see her succeed. Because right now, the way we can't keep people here, we're falling, you know, and I really don't want to leave here seeing this place like falling to the wayside. And I think we have a person here that can make things better. And I see the chief acknowledging, and I truly mean that.
Well, I can tell, in the short time I've worked with her, she is not going to take a friends and family approach to any of this.
And you know, we agree,
Thank
and we
you.
actually said the same thing. We believe that's gone out the window. The problem is that we still need something in writing, because then we're gonna go back to the same way we've always been on these contracts and tweaking them later on down the road, going to find the definitive answer is gotta be on paper. Because instead of going, well, this is what we meant, you know, or this is what we agreed upon with a handshake. It has to be something that we can sit there and see in writing. Everybody can walk in the door and go, okay, this is what I need to become a sergeant. And this is based on my qualifications, based on my background, based on everything else, not based on who I had dinner with last night.
You guys want to go talk about it really quick?
I don't think we need to. I think we can
Well, as
come up
far
right
as
here and sit
scoring.
and
Scoring?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't think of that.
If you want to give us a counter on the balance, we
well-
could consider that.
what would you, before we even walk out there, what do you think? You've done interviews for positions before. What was yours in the?
Well, I think we could be comfortable with a 66-33, right? Two-thirds on the exam and a third on the interview.
And then the interview be objective-based questions?
Yep. Yeah, our goal is to get to the best candidates, right? We're not going to waste questions
And
on
then,
things that aren't objective.
what about a rule? What about a rule
So, okay.
and a list?
Yeah, so we're good also, I think, in that
Yeah.
area.
I think that's very fair.
You have to know.
Where would you be good on a list, on
So
some sort?
here's my concern, right? If people go through this entire process and they pass the two different phases, you know, the science in giving exams and interviewing is not exact,
Of course not.
right? So if you read some papers on the federal government on how they do their promotional exams, they end up with bands of people, because anybody that made it in the band could be better or worse on any given day, but they feel that band really encompasses the best of those candidates, right? And so that's all we're trying to get at here is give us a band of people that on one day may have done a little bit better on an exam or maybe have done a little bit better on an interview. Because you know, when you interview, you don't always get it exactly right from one day to the next, right? And so all we're trying to do is get a band of people that we have high confidence in are able to do the job very well. That's all we're trying to get at.
And would, what you're, say, envisioning, Chief, if I may, I'll make a number. So say 50 people passed the exam. Would that be broken down to X amount of bands?
We can consider that. So if there are 50 people that pass, we could break it into bands of 10, right?
Right.
And we go through that. I mean, that's one way we could look at it.
But and at the same token, then wouldn't that be the same way then of being a list of, and doing your 1 to 5 or 1 to 10, 1 to 3, you know?
But to distinguish the number, I'll just take a random number, 35 from 36. Do you think there's a big difference
No.
between 35 and 36? But if
But
you
then
go
that's
between
it's-
30 and 40, the ones that did better than 30 and less than 40, there's probably a little bit more of an articulable difference.
But I think if you look at the way it's been done in the past, or I think you'll see though, if you go even with the rule of 5, your first 5 are gonna be your best guys anyway, then you're gonna have your second band. You know, so if you need 3 supervisors, you got them right there out of your first 5. It shouldn't even be and then if you need 7, guess what, your top 7, you're in that same bands. You're not gonna be, you know, missing, you're not gonna miss it, because no matter how far down you go, you can't go wrong.
So if we follow that line of thought, what would you think? You know, it's hard to determine the total number that'll test and total number that'll come out. But I think that if we have, from the group that passes the exam, if we can come up with bands of 10, and we work within that band, that gives the chief some discretion. And at the same time, we can distinguish the top band, top tier from the next tier down from the next tier down in terms of quality.
But you can still go from, let's say you have 5 bands, you could still go from band 1 to band 5 and skip over everybody,
between.
nine out of the, 10
That's
of
what
the.
we're suggesting. I don't think that's what I'm suggesting.
But
I'm
then,
But it's-
actually, then you can go for a rule of 5 then.
So
'cause-
then, what I'm suggesting is there may be one person in that group of 10 that the chief chooses not to promote, so that she has one out in that group, and then she can go on to the next group. I think that seems to be fair. We're not looking at a friends and family type thing. So it gives us, you got to give the chief some discretion in being able to pick her
So
team.
here's what my thought would that be, we're gonna be starting fresh all over again. So when we have to start picking, you're gonna need 20 supervisors. So your bands are not even gonna make a difference. But eventually, it's gonna make a difference. And then you're gonna be going, you're only gonna be needing maybe 2 at a time at the most, you know? So going for having a rule of 5 now is giving you a rule of 5 of those top people to pick from. So it's not gonna make a difference. We start going into bands, I think we're making it a little bit more,
It's not fair.
yes, subjective, I think.
Do we have a time frame? How long the test is gonna, how long this is gonna be valid for?
Can we go outside? I want to talk to you guys. We're going to go chat.
Old chief.
Now, is that a promotion or a lateral?
Can you email me that chart? Okay, and then if you could maybe like summarize it, and then. Yeah, that's what I need to, that's based on what you do, we need to add some. Oh, she's not,
And that's the gap.
The pay gap. So then you get, a lot of people get extra money. Can I just see that one?
Yeah, because of the smoothing of pay, and depending on when you start, you get paid for 2 weeks, even if you might only work 5 days during that pay period. So then you're technically being paid in advance. And so at the end of the year, we always do a true-up to say, okay, this is how much you should have been paid, this is how much you've been paid to date. And most of the officers, or a lot of the officers, they're going to get, their last 2 checks are going to be higher because there's an additional amount that we owe.
And these guys know more than I do, but my understanding is they used to get that one extra check or something like that, just square up the difference.
Right, and so now instead of it being an extra check, it's actually included, it's broken up into 2 checks, and it's included on your last 2 checks. So your last 2 checks for most officers will be higher, depending, but it's based on when they started during the year. Yeah, those amounts divided by 2. Yeah, because it's going to be broken up in between 2 checks. Right.